Hello, how's it going? My name is Terrell Wright, and this is The Right Perspective, a new podcast by yours truly, Terrell Wright, where we focus on political issues and other topics around the world and current events that are trending, just to make the world seem a bit more easier to understand. Today we're going to be talking about MAGA and the economic misconceptions of the group. So, I'm on Instagram and Twitter a lot, and you read through the comments and you see posts and you're like, oh my gosh, these poor people, look at them, they've been fooled, they've been tricked. And it just made me think, because I personally live in a rural county. It's kind of a rural, and it's moderately wealthy. And you see Trump signs till you get to the end of the road. And I think to myself, and I'm like, these people are not poor. Like, where are they getting this from? This is just inaccurate. I mean, if you look at videos from the recent riot and attack, just a few days ago, you'd see that these people flew to Washington, D.C. in the midst of a pandemic, but not a pandemic, the worst economic crisis in our modern history. So today I want to get into the sauce of the economic status of MAGA and why our misconceptions about them might not be true. So I just wanted to pull up some statistics first before I get into my personal perspective and kind of get into that. So according to NBC News, a 2016 poll shows that 33% of Trump supporters make over $100,000 a year. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but 33% of Trump supporters also make under $50,000 a year. So that leaves it in the middle, where you have another 34% that makes $50,000 to $100,000 a year. So this might not sound a lot to you, but you have to think about where these counties are. They're typically in more rural areas where $50,000, $100,000 is a lot of money. So a house out in the rural areas might cost you about $300,000, and this is a really nice house for $300,000. Now, to people in Atlanta, that might sound completely absurd because, $300,000, that couldn't get you that barely gets you a condo. But $300,000 out in the rural areas is actually a lot of money. So there's a Washington Post article that I found that's actually really interesting. And it basically cites that Trump supporters are the wealthiest people in their communities. And this makes a lot of sense to me. So the housing and income in these communities are not, the demand and the pay and, the cost of living is not as high as they are in major cities. So don't scoff at $90,000 a year or a $350,000 house, because that's a lot out in these areas. So let me get into my personal experience. I drive around and I go on wealthier roads, and you'll see Trump signs everywhere. And it's like houses that, if they were in the city, would go for $1 million plus. And $100,000 out here, the dollar takes you much further out here. So Trump supporters are actually typically a lot wealthier. Now, you might say, okay, but that doesn't make sense because they're usually uneducated white people. Now, that is the case, but not all uneducated people are poor. For example, you have jobs in the industrial America that are managerial jobs that a lot of these voters hold. They also run their own small businesses. A lot of them inherit a lot of money, a lot of land that's worth a lot of money. So, there's a lot of high income generated within Trump supporters. And another thing that you'll see, if you are familiar with rural areas like where I live, you'll see a lot of expensive trucks. You just have to realize these people out here live different lifestyles. So let's get into where I'm personally kind of mixed on this, because I saw a lot of leftists, a lot of people in my circles were like, oh, this is because they've been fooled. This is because, the wealthy of our society have forgotten about these people. The Democrats in our society have forgotten about these people, and they're just thrown off, and they come into these fringe beliefs and ideologies that make them totally distant from all regular reality. And I guess you can say this in some cases, but they're not poor. They're not poor at all. And I think that means that we have an even bigger problem on our hands, because business owners, because people who have a lot of extra disposable income are putting their money towards things that are complete shams, and and even worse, their beliefs. When you have money, you have political power. You have more. Your money wields more political power. So you're backing these people with these crazy fringe ideologies in our local governments and in our state governments, and all of a sudden we have a much bigger problem on our hands, because these aren't just rural Trump supporters who don't have any disposable income. These people have sometimes upwards of hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars of disposable income. And we need to pay attention to this. This is not a problem that's just going to go away over time. This is not something that's just going to, give it 2 weeks, give it 5 weeks. This is a real problem. These are people who flew all the way to Washington, D.C. to storm the Capitol building and incite terrorism. Now, in the midst of a pandemic, maskless on top of that. So we have a very big problem on our hands. Now, what are the solutions? I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know the solutions. But I think we all need to recognize that there is an issue. There are wealthy people who will propagate and back politicians with crazy ideas that will make my and your life worse. And we need to make sure that we're paying attention to it and stopping it. It's essential. It is so important to us. And I think that we should be paying attention. We should keep paying attention and making sure that this ideology is not spreading, to make sure this hate in our country is not spreading. It's already spread so far, but we need to do our best to contain it. The way that we defeat this is by holding our politicians accountable, and by voting, and by staying aware. And we can try and get through this. I want to thank you for joining me. This was my very first ever video podcast, and I hope it was something worth watching. Hope to be back soon, and I hope y'all have a great day. Thanks.